Listen up or run for cover. Dropping knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it. The real Brad Lee is dropping
What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, I got a real treat for you. But before I get into that, click the like button if you like what you hear, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Ring that bell if you're watching this on YouTube so you get notified every time we drop a new episode. Then you get to hang out and hear from big wigs that old Big Daddy B gets on the horn. Like today, the number one, I would say arguably considered the number one wealth and business coach on planet Earth, serial entrepreneur, property investor, angel investor, founder of MillionaireFlix.com, JT Foxx. What's cracking?
Yeah, I love the intro. It reminds me of my old radio days when I had a radio show where like you get on and like Rush Limbaugh is about to come on. And if you don't like Rush Limbaugh, we'll find somebody else. But had a very good, it reminded me of the old days. So I liked it.
Well, dude, glad you could jump on the show. I know that there's a lot of people listening in the Bomb Squad that could pick up some value. Now, again, me and you, dude, it's kind of a funny relationship, me and you, because we've had our conversations. You know, you're like, dude, I heard you were a dick, and it's funny too because I heard you were a dick. You know, I'm like every time I talk to him, dude. Number one, he's no dick, but more importantly, dude, you actually know what the fuck you're talking about. So I'll give you that. That means you're Bradley endorsed. You know how valuable that shit is?
I feel like Patrick Bet David, who I interviewed on my show, and you guys had like a kumbaya thing, and I'm like, I didn't get that kumbaya. So I feel honored.
I love Bet David. He's awesome.
What's interesting about him is like, it's hard for me to listen to other people. I listen to you, I listen to him, because I don't like the fluffiness. I like the real, no BS, no nonsense. And so it was kind of like, Cheryl, you listen to him and you realize like you have a lot of the same opinions, but this industry in general is sometimes very ego driven, right? And at the end of the day, rather than oftentimes collaborating, it's got more of a competing effort as well. And it's very cliquey. It's very high schooly sometimes. And everybody talks crap about everything. Remember the first time we met, everybody said, he's this, he's that, he's this. And, but I've taken during this pandemic, you have idea of resetting and seeing the world. And you've come to the realization that whoever's trying to bring you down is always below you. It's all been people that are, not doing something, less successful, or pointing the finger. And it's, I think it's very liberating. And you said that when we talk privately, I couldn't care less what people think. And of course I cared, you want to be liked and, especially where you're a public figure. And then you realize that no matter what you do, some people are not going to like you, like the Trump example, right? People either absolutely half the country loves Trump, he can do no wrong. And other people, no matter what he says, it doesn't matter what he does or what he says, whether it's good or bad, he is the worst human being. And then there's a very small margin in the middle, because that's the way we are. People are not open to changing their minds, which is why people's wealth are not growing, which is why their businesses are not growing, because I think they live in a box. They only like to listen to things that they agree with, and they don't stretch their minds beyond the impossible or beyond saying, okay, well, I see their point. I may not agree with it, but I see where they're coming from, which that's how you become. And in sales, you being the master of sales, that if you go into a sales pitch and you're looking at the world from your views, well, they have a different perspective, and that's the big problem.
100%. Now, let's go back a little bit, dude. You had a rusted out old Ford pickup truck, couple $100 in your pocket, $974 according to my notes, and a cheap suit. Now, out of curiosity, was the cheap suit necessary, or if you didn't have the cheap suit, do you think you'd be fucking broke right now?
I hate to say it. I mean, your style is kind of like, jeans and short shirts. I have the power suit, power look tie. And
yeah, but I went through that. You're a young man. How old are you?
I'm just turned 40.
You're young buck.
But image is important. Image is important. So the first suit I had was I'm a 42 long, and the suit that my friend gave me when I moved from Canada, his dad, was a 46 regular, right? So it's like, I could fit 3 people into it. And you never get a second chance at making a first impression. And whether people like it or not, they say don't judge a book by its cover. They do. And they say don't judge people by look. They do. And so for you, you want to make, like, why have someone, now you people say, well, it's the hair I want, it's the I wear what I want, which is fine. And then people have a right not to do business with you because you dress a certain way or you say certain things. And so to me, it's all about image. I take a look at the people who raise a lot of money or that are very successful, they have the power look, right? They, when you go into a private equity, which I own and I raise a lot of money, like, you have to be a power look. And, when you're on your private time, you can wear whatever you want. And I think image is important. And especially in sales, you go in there, you got to look the part. And if you're not, people look for reasons not to do business with you. They don't say, well, he's dressed like a bum, or he doesn't look the part, or he's not dressed appropriately, but I like what he says, so I'm going to buy it. Oftentimes you can't get around that. And it may be stupid, it may be naive, but it's the way it works.
Well, you heard the bomb go off, because that means people need to listen. Because I always tell people, look, you're going to get judged. Brush your fucking teeth. Like, get your teeth fixed. Like, do whatever you got to do. People are like, that's mean to people. Look, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm trying to tell people the truth, and you just did. People are going to judge you. Now, what you're talking about in my mind is style. See, you're choosing the power style, the suit and tie, the freaking kick-ass watch. I bet you got the badass shoes. Problem is with that for me is I got to a point where it's like, because I do have them, but I always say, look, I'll wear a suit if I'm married, buried, or paid. Like, if you're paying me to be here, I'm going to wear a suit. But
here's what I'm saying. You're already branded. When people walk in, you've got a machine called Lightspeed. People know you in the industry. You can wear your underwear and you get away with it because you are a brand. And that is the point. When you are a brand, you could do whatever it is you want. But up until you become that brand where you can get away with things, then you got to play the game. And I think more people don't want to play the game because they look at what other people do or what other people say.
Well, as long as people understand, people are judging you. Like, you cannot try and freaking doubt that. Now, if you know people are judging you, why wouldn't you do your absolute best to look your best, smell your best? Like, I started smoking cigars, dude. I'm about to quit. They make you stink. Why? Well, dude, they may not say nothing when they meet me. Hey, Brad, how you doing? But when they walk away, they're like, God damn, JT, did you smell that, dude? Smelled like ass. So I'm about to, make those all more of a celebratory thing. But dude, that's
branding is always something where people say when you're not in the room, right? Everyone to your face will tell you you're this, you're that, you're nice. And I guess it comes down to the polarization. If you take a look at many successful people, myself, you, and whether people like Trump or not, still 70 million people voted for the man. That Simon Cowell, Chef Gordon Ramsay, right? You take a look at these people, extremely high earners in whatever they do. And they have one thing. They're straight to the point, they're polarizing, and they're no BS. People love to idolize Steve Jobs. But you take a look at it, I know Mike Slade, who's best friends with Jobs, best friends with Gates, worked for both of them. And he said Jobs was an asshole in business, right?
Yeah.
And I couldn't get away with the things he did back in the day. Bill Gates was just on people, straightforward. And so people sort of over time idolize certain people, but they don't realize is that people are afraid of telling people the truth because they're afraid of hurting people's feelings. And so by not telling them the truth, because A, they don't want confrontation, because if I say to you, you know what, you don't look the part today. What do a lot of people say? Well, what do you mean? Well, your dress is there, or you should be doing this. Oh, okay, I get, thank you. I'll take it in the advisement, I'll change. People are like, no, everyone tells me I look good. So what they do is they believe their own bullshit. And because they believe their own bullshit, they don't change, right? It's like when the 2008 happened, the crash happened, people then say, shit, I should have never overborrowed. I should have never stretched myself. You know what they said? The mortgage broker, the bank, it was everybody else's fault. And when you point the finger at somebody else, 3 fingers pointed back. And it's the same thing in sales. And I think, and you and I are both very good at sales. No one ever tells you why they don't buy. What they say is, my wife, we have no money, we're tight, we're overinvested, we already went with somebody else, now is not the good time, whatever excuse they come up with. But if everyone actually told you the truth why they didn't buy, You know what? I thought your pitch was bad. I thought you were unprepared. You know what? You didn't look the part. You know what? I didn't think your product was good. People would be able to take that feedback and change to get the sale the next time. But what people do is they don't take responsibility why I didn't get the sale. They blame the other person. They had no money. They were not interested. So people do the same pitch over and over and over again, and then they wonder why they never succeed.
Folks, and people are opposed to change, and literally change is how you continue to develop. You have to change. Hey, let me ask you a question. You got your own show, JT Foxx Show, correct?
Yeah.
The JT Foxx Show, where you're interviewing people, Gene Simmons, Jesse Jackson, Trump, Kevin O'Leary. Like, how do you get these some bitches?
Well, I actually, Pacino, Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Mark Wahlberg. It's like you went back to the archives of that as well. It's been updated, but it starts with this. Okay, you start with one person, and to me, it's about the branding, right? And I look back at my story is that once you get one person, like for example, anybody who says, Brad, can you be on my podcast? What's the first thing you do, right? If you've never heard of them, you go up there and then you check how many viewers do they have, how many stars do they have. You look at these things, and if you realize that nobody's listening, you are not going to waste 30 minutes or an hour of your time, as much as you want to help, because it helps them, but it doesn't help you. And time is a valuable commodity, right? But what if someone says, hey, Brad, I'd like to interview you. I just interviewed JT Foxx, or I just interviewed Patrick Bet-David. I just interviewed Stallone or Pacino. You know what people say? So the first instinct, it says, well, if it's good enough for those guys, it's good enough for me. So it takes away the pressure. And so what people need to do is they need to start, and they need to like sort of build up into getting something higher. It's the notion of, you have a pin and you're trading it and it ends up with a car. But people try to go for the big fish right off the bat. Too big, too soon, you're going to fail. And so for me, at the point, before the pandemic, I held an annual event, Mega Success, which was like the Super Bowl and World Cup, 2,500 people from 70 plus countries. And our last event last year had 31 A-list celebrities. Dolph Lundgren, Vince Vaughn, like the list, Michael Douglas, Mark Wahlberg, all these big names. Russell Peters, the comedian, and it's not hard to get them because once I got one, then everybody fell into line. Everybody falls into line because they all say if it's good enough for them. And that's how a brand grows. It becomes easier and easier. See, branding is the fuel. Marketing is the engine of your business. Branding is the fuel. But without sales, okay, it doesn't matter how many leads you have or how branded you are. If you cannot convert, then you don't succeed.
Hmm.
By the way, do you do that for everybody, or am I like last 4 minutes? Am I like on a good? Because that's very motivating. I'll keep going if I keep getting these bombs.
Well, that's why I brought you on, because, dude, in talking to you, you definitely know what you're talking about, and you've invested, you've bought homes, you put on these events, you know all the big wigs. You're definitely out there in the mix, and I knew you'd be dropping some bombs. No, everybody doesn't get them, bro.
But
most people, they'll get a few bombs, but guess what? I decide what the bombs are. So if it happens to be carpet bomb the whole show, then that just means you did better. What you don't want is one of those deals. You don't want one of those deals, but I don't see you getting one of those. I can tell you this though, like you've bought and sold, or basically acquired and sold, over 500 properties.
More now, way more than that. I'm well over 600. I have over 50 companies and brands, actually over 60 now. But the interesting thing is all of that doesn't matter. And I'll tell you why it doesn't matter. Because the pandemic changed everything, right? And when the pandemic happened, I remember my last speech, 6,000 people, Edmonton, Canada, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I had flown in from Paris. I was like 12 countries in like 12 days. And I landed at like 10 a.m. in the morning. I was on stage at 11:30 with Arnold. It was my last speech. And then the pandemic hit. I was supposed to go on tour in Australia, New Zealand. I'm like, I know, I felt like drained. And then I had been on the road since. I've been on a plane since. I've been anything, which is the longest. I mean, I was on the road 324 days the year before. And
did you think
what I realized is that, what?
You didn't have COVID. You said I felt drained.
No. I was run down. Like here's the thing. You lost your, you know how to do your job, but after a while, it's like, it gets a little bit old. And you know what, traveling different planes every day, like different countries, it's exhausting. And I was mentally drained, not physically. I was just like, I was over it. I wasn't getting the same joy. I would get a joy when I'd open a new country. Like we're in 54 different countries. We have clients in over 100, but we opened like right before, a week before that, the Czech Republic. And we were about to open Romania, Luxembourg, Hungary, Korea. To me, new country, you go in, nobody knows what it is. Everybody tells you can't make it, right? The unknown of the sale. They're like, oh, they won't buy the American, even though I was born in Canada. So people don't like American. They don't like Americans. I'm Canadian, so I'm both. I got 2 passports. So, but the point is, when the pandemic hit, here's what I said: I need to reinvent myself. And I did a lot of companies, a lot of deals. But what I did is I was the money guy, and I'd look from 10,000 feet, 30,000 feet. And I said to myself, I am going to act broke. I'm gonna act broke. I'm gonna live broke for the next 30 days, and I'm going to start over from scratch, which means that I am going to pick up the phone, reach out to people, because I have people now. They reach out to people at meetings. You have this whole organization. I mean, I have like over 40 people that work for me, so I have a lot of people, and that's just employees. The contractors even more. Everything was kind of done for me, and I said I was going to pick up the phone, call people deals, and I was going to start from scratch, and I was going to work 18, 20 hours a day. Even though I have all the money. I mean, I was a millionaire at 24. I was a multi-millionaire at 25. I had an 8-figure net worth when I was 28. Now in my 30s, there's a lot of zeros. And I started with nothing. And I literally acted broke. And I picked up the phone call. I reached out to you, just cold email. Things that normally would be somebody reaching out to you back and forth, reach out on your social media, and literally completely reinvented myself and started with nothing. And by the way, when I call people, I didn't even say my name was JT Foxx, right? Because, they Google you, they're like, oh, wow, you're this guy. I didn't even say I'm JT Foxx. I wanted to know if I could do it. And you know what it takes? What people don't understand is there's no magic program or system that's going to make you wealthy. And they're very programs are very important, but people need skills. And if you have the skills, right? Because people are learning right now and their brain's like a leaky bucket. They'll listen to something and it'll go in. Like if they're smart, they don't listen to the show one time. Because you know what? You're listening to the show one time. This interview almost does nothing. You will be entertained one time. The greats will listen to the show 10 times. Why? Because every time you listen to it, it's going to click. And step number 1, you learn. Step number 2, you got to start retaining this information. Step number 3, you got to practice. People don't practice sales, which is insane, or they don't practice marketing. They don't practice branding. They don't practice cold calling. They just kind of just wing it. I called people that in markets I wasn't even interested in, just to see how people react. And then you got to be prepared, right? You got to go into a meeting, everything you've learned, you got to go in there, have all your notes. Then you got to master it, which means you got to start going back for it until it's natural, and then look at other things that are comparable to that as well. And then you got to have the mindset to dominate as well. And so I've completely reinvented myself. I started all these businesses, relationships. I reached out and I realized a lot of things that I should have done that we forget to do. I forget the power of the relationship. You and I briefly, a couple emails talked about a year and a half ago. And that was a very big mistake. Because you know what, we would have had a friendship, we would have made a lot of money together, I would have been on light speed and done some amazing things, and I didn't. And then it took the pandemic to realize, you know what, it's all about relationship, it's about maintaining relationship, it's about follow up and follow through. There's a lot of times that say, oh, Brad, JT, why don't you come to my event? I don't know how many people. You didn't invite me, but if you did, like, how many people? I don't know if it's worth it, and you start saying no to everything because you're so busy. And my realization is I need to start saying yes. Yes to opportunity, yes to opening doors, yes to making it happen. And by the way, it made me better. It also humbled me that all the money and all that stuff, all the cars, the jets and the planes, none of that stuff matters. I have all that stuff. None of it matters. What mattered was building a relationship with the clients, knowing that I'm there, building that relational capital. And I went online, live on Instagram, 104 days in a row during the pandemic, in a row, live coaching randomly. I would just come on and coach, and I gave tremendous amount of value. I picked up the phone and made sales calls. I did things I had not done, and it was humbling, and it made me realize that I had lost perspective, and it actually made me a much better entrepreneur, much calmer, much more humbler. And you know what? I think loving the game again, which I forgot how good the game of business, because business is a game. Money is how we keep score, but it is a game.
For sure. How would you define relationship capital?
Well, there's financial capital, money for deals and whatever it is. Then there's social capital, that's giving back. Educational capital is investing in courses, coaching, mentoring. And relational capital is called reciprocal relationship, right? Like, for example, I had you on my show and it was fantastic. And then you had me on your show. Okay. Now I have a big platform. You have a big platform. But what if I just had you and we didn't reciprocate back? So here's what happened. You invited me back on your show and you kept to your word, by the way, which a lot of people don't. They say, yeah, it never happens. So now this morning, knowing I have this interview, because I didn't know until it was in my schedule, I said, wow, that's going to happen. I said, Francie, you know what? Brad always does what he said he was going to do, right? So we need to revisit our relationship and do something, because that's what we need to work with. And that caused a conversation where you, right before we aired, I said, you know what? Yeah, we gotta do something here, because you're a man of my word. So that's called a reciprocal relationship. But you also need to know your role in the food chain. So you and I are at the same level of wealth and success and growth and all that. But if we're dealing with Jeff Bezos, let's say, or anybody or any celebrity, and they didn't give back, then you know what? Unfortunately, you just got to take it, because they don't need you. And that's what people don't understand. They don't need you. So you have to play by their rules until they do. And there's this expectation of like, for example, I had a client and I was going to buy a business, right? And I said, give me a couple of days to think about it. And you know what? They came back to me 3 days later. My people hadn't underwritten yet. I haven't had a call yet. The election was all messed up and delaying things. And they called to complain that I hadn't called and it's unprofessional. So I'm about to write you a $1.7 million check out of my pockets to go into business with you, and you're already complaining. For that reason, I'm out. Because if you're doing that, like, you know what I mean? And I was like, it doesn't make any sense. And I hate to say this, but in business, you need to know your role in the food chain. Everybody says we're equal. No, we're not. There's a lot of room at the top. It's the bottom that's crowded. I am not equal to Elon Musk. I am not equal to Jeff Bezos. And we're talking about in business terms here. They do extraordinary things. They do life-changing things. In fact, I would argue that what you've done in some of your business is phenomenal, that I wish I had come up with. But there's also the story, for 10 years, you didn't do anything. For 10 years, you barely made money. You were scrapping by until you built that. Most people would have quit after a month, 3 months, 6 months. You went all in. So the same way how you started your business with the relationship with the website guy, right? And that's another thing. You told me that story. I listened, which most people are spending time talking when they do that. That's how you build relational capital. Reciprocal relationship, right? You were looking at a house in some neighborhood. Oh, I saw it. I messaged you. Now, whether or not you were interested, you liked it, you didn't like it, in the back of your mind, you said, you know what? The guy cared enough to send me something. He didn't have to. He's busy. That's relationship. That's relational capital.
And it's important stuff, folks. I can tell you right now, I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't have and build and continue to maintain relational capital. So let me ask you a question. What have you found to be the secret to building relationships? Because you got a lot of them.
Okay. So number one, there is no secret. Number two, here's the thing. Okay. When you deal with people that are more successful, you don't ask for anything. That's the biggest mistake. Like, you know, you and I are building a relationship. I haven't asked you necessarily to do anything like, hey, can you introduce me to this person on this platform? Like, I'll give you an example, perfect example about this. And I hope he sees this. Tim Grover is on Lightspeed, right? I saw him on The Last Dance. Okay. I saw him on The Last Dance. And I was impressed, you know, the trainer thing. I always love the idea of the coach, right? Now, I have no problem getting anybody at this point in my life, because I've had everybody. So I reach out to him and say, I'd like to interview you, blah, blah, blah. He says no. Or he says, I'm kind of busy, talk to so. So then I reach out to this person. She doesn't reach out back to me, or she did to my people or something like that. And then what has happened is literally every single month, 3 to 4 weeks, I'm sending him a message and saying, hey, Tim, how are you? Just to let you know, I talked about him to my clients. I had 2,000 people on a Zoom. I talked about him. I did an interview on my show with the guy, the author of Michael Jordan. I said, how important was Tim Grover? I take the clip, I send him Instagram. I know he can see it, right? I know he can see it because it says seen on there as well. It's literally been 4 months as well. And there's a difference between stalking and persistence. Now, he hasn't said no, or I don't know if he's trying to see if I'm a cleaner or something like that. I don't know what it is. I mean, it shouldn't be a problem, but for some reason it's not. But to me, Like it took me 2 years to get to Julia Roberts. It took me 4 years to get to Paul McCartney. 4 years of persistence of trying to get a hold of who I can get. And I finally got to Paul McCartney. I finally got to Julia Roberts. And you know what I did? I brought some of my top clients with me. So the relationship is given. I spent all this time and I brought my clients to meet Paul McCartney at the concert. We went backstage and it was phenomenal. And so the people wanted one picture. That was not the deal, but they wanted one picture. So you know what I did? I spent literally 4 years trying to get a hold of Paul McCartney. And rather than taking a picture next to Paul McCartney, you know what I told the client? You go next to the client. So we were all in the same picture, but I didn't stand next. Because here's the thing, a leader is always a person who gives to everybody else. And it should come back, but it doesn't always come back. But when it does, right, everybody wins. That a leader is not something you say, it is shown by your actions. That's why I built a brand, is that I share my celebrities with my clients. We just had Jillian Michaels yesterday and we did something together. And I said, Jillian, do you mind if my clients can interview you? Now, I don't care how many times blue in your face you try to call Jillian Michaels, they ain't gonna go on your show, not gonna go. But because they're my clients and I endorsed them and I said, Jillian, they're okay. She spent, after we did our event together, interviewing some of my clients for their shows to build their brand. And you know what? She said she loved it. And she said in 20 years, everyone's pitched her. She's only said yes to 2 people. Her first business partner for 20 years ago, that's still her business partners, and me. And she said there's been 1,000 offers before. And I said to her, why? She goes, you know what? You care. I could tell you care for your clients. And you know what? I can feel that you want to accomplish something, right? That we can do something amazing together. So it's not selling. It often is being yourself and knowing when to go for it, when not to go for it, and going back. And maybe Tim Grover is going to see this conversation and I'll be like, hey, Tim, I would love to interview you or just to talk with you. I even said to him, Tim, how much would it cost for you to coach me? I'm a big believer in coaches. Even I'll give you money. And he hasn't responded, right?
You want me to call him for you?
Pardon me?
You want me to introduce him to you?
Maybe I'll show him this clip. And then if he does it,
dude, I'll just FaceTime him if you want me to.
Yeah, you know, but that'd be funny. Like, why aren't you returning JT's call? But you know what? I get a guy like that probably gets pitched by a lot of people. And that's what you need to understand. So
not only that, dude, but Tim Grover's one of those real motherfuckers too. Like Tim Grover's a real dude. Like he don't give a rat's dick who you are, what you got. He's like a old school dude from Chicago. He believes in freaking kicking ass and taking names. Discipline's the name of the game. You crybaby bullshit, excuses. Like if you read his book Relentless, it's freaking great.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, he's got another book coming out, I think, called Winning. Anyway, yeah, I'll see what I can do to put you together. And again, I mean, it's like, dude, I've called him before and said, hey, my buddy wants to give you $75,000 to do his thing, and I was like freaking thinking, you know, I'm hooking him up with $75K. He said call Sherry. I said call.
Yes, I got that too.
I said call Sherry. He goes, yeah, you know me, dude. I don't mess with that shit. So I call Sherry. Freaking, you know, I'm trying to play Mr. Cool, like I'm gonna hook my buddy up directly with Tim, and Tim will answer my call, but like I don't know if I'd call him and get him, by the way, I would never to do your video, but I guarantee I can introduce you.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I wouldn't abuse of our relationship. Just to give an example, because it's still relatively new, and people need to understand. I just gave this story as an example.
Yeah.
But here's the point.
When you're
like, people ask me, like, can you get me to the White House? Like, I got that a lot. Can you get me to Necker Island? Like, because, you know, and I'm like, first of all, I don't know you. What you do for me? And do you really think I'm going to use my relational capital, right? If you said to me, you know what, hey, JT, you know what, I got to introduce you to Leo DiCaprio, right? I give you an idea, right? Introduce you to Leo, blah, blah, blah. It'd be great for your events, blah, blah, blah. I get a Leo. Then when you say, hey, I need that right away, because I know there was political, but when people don't do anything for you, or they just expect that you're going to, yeah, here's an A-list celebrity, because with these celebrities or successful people, you only have a certain amount of bullets in your gun, right? And you don't want to be that person because they get asked all the time. So it's quite relieving. I'll get another story. Took me 9 years to get to Oprah. I'm very good friends with Stedman. The man is the nicest man on the planet, right? nicest, not one time in 9 years did I ask him to meet Oprah. Not one time. And by the way, do you think I wanted to? The branding, the picture, Oprah, a lot of our clients are women now. It's a huge opportunity. Hey, Stem, can I have Oprah at my event? Never once ask him. And sometimes I tease and be like, man, she's busy, you know? And what happens is it was December 28th. I saw she was going to be in Florida. I'm in Florida on January 4th. And I said, Stedman, oh, it's time. He goes, I don't understand. I'm like, oh, it's time. He goes, I don't understand. Oh, it's now time. And he goes, oh. And I said, she's in town. I want a picture. I want to meet her. I haven't asked you anything in 9 years. I've done this for you, my bro. Please. And he goes, literally, he goes, let me think about it. He gets off the phone. 7 minutes later, Oprah's assistant messages me and she says, we got 2 tickets, second row. You can meet her backstage and get a picture. Now, let me tell you about the power of the universe after that. You can bring one person. You know who I brought? One of my billionaire, a guy that was building a relationship, was a billionaire in Florida. I said, would you like to come with me with Oprah? So I brought a billionaire with me. We end up doing business together because we took his helicopter down and then we like hung out together afterward. He had a great time. We go backstage, we meet Oprah, we have a conversation. And who else is standing on the court over there? Gayle King. So I built a relationship with Oprah, Gayle King, and the billionaire in one shot. Billionaire is like, wow, this guy. So every time he says, anytime you want to use my plane, anytime you want to use my stuff, use my house. We talk all the time. We do business together. We're about to acquire a lot of medical centers all across the world. And by the way, you know what he said? When you brought me to there, and it's not about Oprah. It's not, he's not even celebrity. He just liked the thought of all the people in the world. I brought him. So that's the flywheel. That's what happens in relationships.
Reciprocal. What is Millionaire Underdog about?
Well, it's a story of basically I went from broke to where I am today. And the whole idea is most books, to me, I'm a fan of. I don't think most books are good. And I'll tell you why is they have 3 or 4 or 5 good ideas. And the idea is to buy the course or to buy the consulting, which is okay, right? And so I said, I'm going to write a book that if I read the book, I could sell it for like one of my programs for 5,000. It was the same concept, even though you don't really make any money and it's, you know. So I went all out and literally every paragraph, there had to be like a bomb or a great content. And, you know, we did that. And the average person will read my book 3 times. There are 0 used copies on the market. I decided not to put it on Amazon. I decided not to sell it to publisher because you give all your money away. And for me, I was already well known. So putting it in bookstores and going on Amazon, people just go to millionaireunderdog.com and they would get it. And so I chose profit over, you know, giving it away and making, because people don't understand with publishers, you don't make any money. Like no one makes money in books, right? And if you get an advance, it's like advance against future things and only big names get very big advances. So maybe you make $1 or $2 a book. So I just decided to make 100% and put a product out there. And so it's a story of basically step by step, you know, how I brand, how I market, how I grow businesses, how to be better at marketing than Steve Jobs. So a lot of good stories that I put in there, but it's also step by step. Like I like to teach or speak or write step 1, step 2, step 3. It's very easy to follow, which sometimes long paragraphs winded, you got to read between the lines. Now I'm good at reading between the lines. You are too, but a lot of people, they just need, give me the steps. So that's what Millionaire Underdog is.
So they go get it at millionaireunderdog.com. Now, I want to also talk about Millionaire Flicks. Is that right? Millionaire Flicks with an X.
Millionaire Flicks, yes.
Millionaire Flicks.
So, yeah, so the concept with Millionaire Flicks is I would go on the road and you've been to those events, right? So you have 10 speakers and everybody's selling their crap. And I would go in there and my program was up to 5,000. I did that all over the world. And I was always number 1, maybe once in a while number 2. It really depends what spot you'd go in. And I would see as the day go by, the audience was just like cringing because it was too big too soon, right? Like there's too much pitching. And there's nothing wrong with selling. There's nothing wrong with selling a product. It's just you get drawn out. And if you really take a look at it from a sales perspective and you understand sales, you have 10 speakers, 1 crushes, 2 or 3 do well or good, very good, and the rest do horrible. And even though
you're talking financially.
Yeah, I'm talking about financially. I'm talking about sales, back of the room sales.
Yeah, when you say they crush it, like I'm thinking, you know, they killed it. They were awesome. Everyone loved them. But you're talking about they crushed it by everybody buying their shit.
When you're on stage, right, and you're selling something, let me tell you what the worst thing is in sales. Because that's how people are paying you, right? You want people to run to the back and give you their card or order or go whatever it is to do. So people are like, they're like bowing and stuff like that. And it's so funny because my style was, and I mean, I am the #1 platform sales speaker on the planet because I've done it in 54 different countries, and I know different cultures. And I would go like run to the back and, you know, do things like that. And people are like, he's this, he's that. But the tables were just completely packed because people, what they were doing is they were waiting, right? Waiting for the sale. Like I was leading them to the sale. The biggest problem in sales is people don't have a call to action, right? They're waiting for the customer to say, I am interested. I told the customer what to do. Go to the back, do this, sign up the form. Here's what's going to happen. Lead. Here's, you know, I mean, all the sales strategies that are. So most people like, all right, everybody, my program is whatever. And I saw fatigue. I had a conversation with Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak, who I've known for a long time now. Great guy. And he said to me the story about Woz and the iPhone. And he said to me that the board was hesitant on having the iPhone because the position is it's going to wipe out the iPod. The iPod is what really took Mac to the next level. They were making a fortune out of it. They bought it for 100 million out of Singapore. They were making a fortune. The margins were huge on there. And so basically the iPhone would kill the iPod, which it eventually did. And here's what Steve Jobs said. If we don't do it, somebody else will. And that decision is why Apple, it is the company you want. Tim Cook is amazing, but it was Steve. If you think about it, when's the last time Apple really came out with any products? They're just maintaining and bettering what they have. They haven't come up with anything new. It was Steve Jobs' vision to do that. Now, Steve Jobs didn't want a bigger iPhone. You know, we have the Pro or whatever, right? He just wanted the small one, the 5, because he didn't think it should be big, which is why Samsung then gained some market share. And then as soon as he passed away, it took 2 years for Apple to get a bigger phone. Why? Because it takes 2 years for Apple in the pipeline to get rid. That's what people don't understand. Good entrepreneurs are thinking 2 years ahead, not every day. So what happens, I said, and he says, you need to do something nobody does. So I said, you know what? I'm going to put all my programs on there. I have 55 programs. And in terms of sales, you start realizing after a while that not everyone's going to buy 55 programs, you know, especially when they're like 5,000. People will be like, well, you know, maybe I'll buy a couple or 2, 3 or once in a while. So I said, you know, let me put all my programs for one low price. I'll do it for $50. You get 7,000 hours of content. I've also, you know, here's the thing about me. You said to me in my reel, I'm the only person ever to have recorded every one of his coaching sessions from broke to where I am today. I've spent millions in coaching. I've recorded everything in the last 10 years from broke to where I am today. So people can listen to failures, the mistakes. And I've always been very transparent of telling people my flaws, my mistakes, or going to my coach, say, listen, I'm having this thing. I'm afraid I might lose money here. Or, you know what, how do I deal with this negative staff? Or what do I do here? I'm afraid of taking this risk here. And people would learn from my coaching, and I still get coached to this day. I have 5 coaches that I pay. And by the way, not only that, but my clients, if they want, they get coached by my coaches too. Because if it's good enough for me, it's good enough for my client. That is the philosophy. So I want people to know everything I've ever done, they get for one price, $50. So that was the notion as well. But I'm going to tell you something shocking, and you're going to be shocked by this, and maybe you'll say, I get it. It is harder to sell 55 programs, 7,000 hours of content for $50 than it is to sell one program for 5,000.
That crazy? Why do you think that is?
The notion right away, like it's too much. What's in the programs? Why is it only $50? If it's so good, the excuses come in. When you're selling one thing, okay, I can focus 90 minutes, 60 minutes, 10 minutes, however long on this one thing. Why you need this one program? What's this one program do? Features, benefits, opportunities, risks, downsells, upsells, cross sells. How is it going to feel? When you're selling too much, right? It confuses, and a confused mind does not buy and does not invest.
Who do you think the #1 stage closer is between you and Marshall Silver?
Well, I mean, I know Marshall, and here's the problem with Marshall. Marshall is a 2-step closer. He had to do his show on the Hypnotist show, right? The Hypnotist show. And what happens is you would do the show the night before, and then you would come back and do a presentation. So it's not a 90-minute close. It's a 2-step close, right? Most people, if they can speak, let's say I speak an hour the night before, give content only, not sell, and then the next day I sell, the numbers were always to the roof. You almost get half the room in some cases as well.
Is that a big percentage of that game?
No, most people, it's one thing. He was the only one who did it because he had a novelty act, which is crazy because it's more value for the client. I don't understand why the promoters didn't do that, but it's much more value for the customer to get the value. Wow, this is great. Feel like, okay, there's not a pitch, rather than having all these picture pitching things. And then they go on there. And here's the thing too. I've done it in 54 different countries. Marshall has not. And here's the thing. I'm not going to talk bad. I think Marshall's a nice man. But if you take a look at what people don't see, there's a difference between sale and then back-end refunds, right? Who refunds after they get the program, stick of the program. Like, there's a lot of things that people don't see that in this industry we would know. But I mean, Marshall is a showmanship. Is the ultimate showman, and he's very good at what he does. But it's hard you take a look at where people are now and who's still around 10 years later. It's not that many of us from who first started 10 years ago who are now. But you know what? I'd like to see, can you close in South Africa? Can you close in Botswana? Can you close in Oman? Can you close in Kuwait? When you're a white American Canadian, right? And you're non-Muslim, let's see if you can close. And I've crushed in the Middle East. Can you go to Oman, in UAE, Dubai, Kuwait, and Bahrain, right? And then a day and a half later, go to Israel and do just as well. That's the ability, because I'm very good at understanding the culture. So I'll go in, I know about the Quran, obviously know about the Bible. I know all about the economy, the local, what they feel, what their objections are. And that's what a great salesperson knows. Because the biggest objection when you sell outside your country, state, city, province, or outside your market, is they assume that you don't know what they go through because you're a different skin color, a different, city, a different relationship, everyone has the same business, health, life issue. We're all the same, all 7 billion people. They may have different problems, but we're all humans with similar problems. And so maybe maybe the culture is different. So I would say, here is your culture. For example, in Norway, where I've done Norway, Sweden, Finland, Scandinavia, done very well. They have a culture of young to loven. Don't talk about yourself. Don't become, don't say you're better than anybody. Everybody's equal.
That's Norway?
Yeah, that's Norway. It's called young to loven. And in Sweden, it's called jantelagen. So what I would do is I would bring it up. I'm like, I know there's young to loven, and the only time I use the F word, but it's like, F young to loven. Okay? Because you know what? You're not like everybody else. If you were like everybody else, they would be here as well. So why you are here empowering yourself, and you should not celebrate your success so that you can make people that are not here feel better. Everybody clapped, and I did very well.
Right? Janteloven.
Janteloven and Jantelagen in Sweden.
I heard Norway's unbelievable. Gorgeous over there.
I mean, it's very expensive. Like, give you the idea, if you take a Uber or a taxi, they don't have Ubers anymore because it was banned. But if you take a taxi from the airport to the city center of Oslo, it's $200. And it's for like a 40-minute. It's insane how expensive. You take a train, it's $18, but that goes right into the city. So there's a lot of things. Norway is very expensive. It's not, we take it for granted here in America. We can go to a strip mall, we can go to mall. They don't really have that there. They don't have a lot of stores. They don't have like even the airports, how we have like Hudson News or whatever, and you get a snack, a magazine. They don't have that at these airports there. So we're very spoiled in the way of life that we have here in North America. It's very different in Europe, and obviously and Australia is great.
Hey, if you're starting over again, would you think learning how to market or learning how to close is more important?
I think learning how to close, because if you have no money or you're starting out, the only thing you have is your time and your effort, right? Effort, attitude, persistence means you need to talk to people, you need to close people, right? And so at first, working your warm market and then reaching out to cold market, it just takes a work ethic, a work effort.
And for all the people listening right now thinking one day they're going to be worth tens of millions of dollars, but right now they're just, making 50, 60 and their dreams are big is all. What would be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
You take it to the next level. Number one, worry about making your first 100,000, your first million, your first 10 million, your first 100 million, first bow. Too many people are focused on the jet, the cars, the Lambos, the stuff. All that stuff is ridiculous. And a lot of people on social media are selling their stuff. The way you see on social media, I could sit here and tell you the truth about every speaker. If I really told you how much money they have, what they do, what they like, what they close, the shit they say on stage and backstage is completely different. And people idolize that. Okay. I know everybody in this business, everybody, every speaker. And if I don't know them, we research them because I want to find out. That's another thing. Know who your competition is. Not only who's ahead of you, but who's behind you. Okay. So I know the real truth. And so what happens is it's the rented Lambo, the plane and all that stuff, or the car was bought not by doing real estate, was be selling coaching. That's how you bought the Lambo. So you're showing off the Lambo that you sold by selling coaching, not by doing real estate. And here's the thing too, the world's most successful people don't flaunt their wealth. Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, they don't flaunt their wealth. So why do a bunch of people flaunt their wealth when the richest people in the world? You got to flaunt your business. You got to flaunt who you are. You got to flaunt your product. You got to flaunt the results of your customers. If you take care of your customers will take care of your profits and your success rate. Be that consumer obsessed on delivering on what you're going to say. Under promise and over deliver, right? Kind of what Amazon did, right? Obsess on the result. You want to build a success? Don't say it, do it. Show results. Right? In business, people in business, results don't lie, but people who don't have any always do, right? And when they start saying, here's how much this I did, who cares? You know, I start saying, oh, I'm a millionaire. I was 24 years old, right? So what? Someone says, so what? So what? Right? Like, and so I was trying to impress people that, hey, I'm somebody. Now I want to be impressed by the results I give to my clients, because that's how you build a brand. That's how you make more money as well. And here's another thing. Don't chase the money. That's the biggest problem you have. Focus on the money will come. The money will come when you're very good at what you do. Helping customers, speaking, closing, sales, right? The better you are at what you do, right? Focus on sharpening that skill axe, right? Sharpening your sales skills, right? Brad's the man that. Sharpening your marketing skills, your branding skills. Like I give you an example. I'm in here. I got my studio. I haven't left, okay? And I haven't brought people in, you know, so, and what it is, I got this whole camera set up and, you know, I can't bring people in, long story. And so I had to figure it out. Now, it's not my job to figure out, but you know what? I YouTubed, I researched, I called, I get camera, and I got this whole setup now that I did by myself. That's not perfect, but in the short term, it does the job. Anything can be figured out. When you got the fire and the enthusiasm and the passion, you can figure anything out. And another thing is people got to have short-term sacrifice to long-term benefits. If you're broke, you got no business watching football on Sunday. If you're broke, you got no business hanging out with your buddies and drinking and have a good time. If you're broke, you got no businesses going out. You have to say, how bad do you want to succeed? Short-term sacrifices for long-term benefits. We now live in a society where everybody wants to be rich, but nobody wants to work for it. Right? You see every program online, how to make money, no calls, no work, no effort. You sit on your ass. It doesn't work that way. Work ethic eliminates fear. They cannot beat you if you never quit. That's the big message in there. And that's what people see online. What you see online is fake. All this Instagram nonsense and stuff like that, that's not business. You focus on posting your clients, your results, posting quotes about stuff you do. Focus on showing the world that you can do what you say you could do. Like Brad, you know, when he puts his content on social media, it's amazing. It's sales tip. It's adding value. It's showing here's what my client does. And as a result, the product then sells itself. You don't need a Lambo or a plane. And I'm tired of seeing everybody with their damn planes because nobody cares. Like, I don't understand. It gives people a false expectation of what success is. And number one, you know what? Rather than posting a plane, why don't you just post a success story, right? Just like I don't post things when I go on vacation. You know, I've got a large collection of some of the most expensive watches. I don't post that stuff because it doesn't matter. I post results.
Well, they post those things because, unfortunately, it sells. You know, if I see you in a Lambo and I see you in a jet, now I want to be you, so I follow you and then buy all your bullshit.
Okay, but let me say it too. Quality. The thing with me is I attract very wealthy people, right? I have clients that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I've coached billionaires. I attract high-level people. So if you attract a bunch of entrepreneurs who, by the way, sometimes it's not about the quantity of sales, it's the quality of sales. You want to know how to build an empire? Lifetime value. Apple is not the cheapest phone. It's actually one of the most expensive phone. But you know what people do? They buy it every time. Just like my clients, whatever product, whatever service, whatever investment, whatever I do. Like for example, when I want to raise money, boom, no problem. And by the way, I could have done unaccredited. I don't. I decided to back away. That there's a lot of things that I can do that I don't do. But at the end of the day, my clients keep buying them over because you keep delivering. Just like Apple, whatever phone they come up, I buy. Whatever stuff they come up, I buy. So here's the thing too, a customer is someone who buys once from you, right? And by the way, when that customer doesn't make money, they go online, they trash, they talk bad. You build an empire. For me, the sign of success is people who keep coming back to my events every single time. People who keep coming to Millionaire Flicks every single time. People keep listening to my show every single time. You know why? Because they got value. That's the name of the game. Most people worried about one-time sale. I'm worried about lifetime selling.
Dude, you'll buy someone's business, house, or even give loans, won't you? Send us deals.com.
Yeah, so interesting enough, here's the kind of funny part. So there's a lot of people that are watching this right now, right? And the whole point is this. Wow, you're like,
millions.
There are millions and millions, billions. It's huge. It's big league.
Nobody does it better.
Nobody drops better bombs than Brad. He's fantastic. Nobody knows. Brad voted for me. His dead father didn't vote for me. So it's the way the world works is crazy. But the idea is that to me, I said, all these people are enjoying this, but they're fans or they're people that are attending, right? And I said to me during the pandemic, you guys like this? Why don't we just do business together, right? That was like the idea was let's monetize the relationship, right? And so I came up with Next Level with JT. And I said, I'll fund deals. I'll buy your business. I'll partner with you. I'll bring my capital. My God, some of the greatest deals. I got a deal, $2.5 million and HUD non-recourse. It's all the way to the distance. The guy gave me half. So I put 2.5 million and it's going to make between 9 to 247 unit North Carolina, new construction, HUD non-recourse loan. And I'm putting 2.5 million. I brought some of my clients who wanted to be on there as well, because we have a group of high level, all my clients want to get in, but it's going to make between 9 to 11 million. That's just one thing. So I'm just leveraging all my relationships, all my database, and I've got some of the best deals I've ever had, some of the best businesses. I'm buying a business for £1. It's a chiropractic. It's a business in the UK that has all these scanning machines. He has a $178 loan, £178,000 loan. He got all the equipment. He doesn't know how to monetize it. So I'm going to buy it for £1. I'll make the payments on the 178, which is not a problem for me as well. And there's 41,000 people in the UK who are on a waiting list to get a CAT scan. I get the machine. Call the hospital and say, and by the way, before I bought it for $1, we call the hospital and say, hey, do you guys this? We have a machine. They're like, absolutely. How many people can you take? So now I'm going to take over this business and create 3 shifts, right? From 7 a.m. in the morning to 11 p.m. at night, 7 days a week, right? Because people are in a backlog. People need a CAT scan. So they don't care if they come Sunday at 7 p.m. The thing is going to make me a fortune. That's just one example as well. So you have to be, and you have to be able to see the big picture. And a lot of people don't see the big picture. So my idea is like, hey, let's work together. Next level with JT.com. Whether you need funding or partnering, or I have celebrity connections or connections, right? That was the greatest idea for me during the pandemic, and a mistake that I did. I go from country to country. I speak, I do my thing. I go back and I do my own stuff and my own businesses and my own deals. And I never stop saying, hey guys, how can we work together? How can we work together? Who do you know, right? And by the way, here's another thing. One of the guys that we know, John Rankins, he knew you, right? I know he knew you because I was at my event and your picture was at my event, Lightspeed, right? You know what I should have said? Can you introduce me to Brad? I should have said that 2 years ago, and I didn't, right? Because I was only focused in my lane. I didn't stop. It's not what you know. It's not who you know. It's who knows you.
Boom. Folks, if you're liking what JT's talking about, dude, make sure that you go follow him at JT Foxx Official, right?
Yeah. Instagram. By the way, send me a message. I respond to all that as well. Tell me what you think, right? We'd love for you guys to add me on Instagram, Facebook as well. But, I love the interaction. You have an amazing audience. You're the real deal. And I could say from the perspective, I know a lot of people, and I'm sorry that I thought you were a dick, but I still called you, right? But I'm sorry I thought, and that's what happens when we take the advice from other people is, I realized that the person who told me that was jealous of you. And that's usually what happens. When people are jealous of you, they're trying to bring you down.
Yeah, it's a sad thing. But then again, also, everybody doesn't like everybody. Somebody could be a dick to one person and be a sweetheart to the next. Like, again, my ex-wife, to me, she is not a nice person. But, dude, a lot of people think she's a sweetheart. So you never know. You never know. That's why I always say, judge for yourself, folks. And just like old JT has been on the show dropping bombs, if you like him, follow his ass. Go to Underdog Millionaire, get the book. UnderdogMillionaire.com to get your book.
Millionaire Underdog.
Millionaire Underdog. And by the way, like, where's your just main website where people can just find you?
JTFoxXX.com.
JTFox.com. Dude, next time you're in town, I want you
to... Two X's.
Two X's. And by the way, next time you're in town, dude, I need you in the studio for this one. I don't do Zoom bombs much unless they're bigwigs and they're busy. So I appreciate you jumping on here today. Make sure you come in next time you're in Vegas and we can get this thing done in real life.
Well, we'll get it done before. And I just hope this audience got a lot of bombs, as you say. But here's the thing too. You're a great leader. You're a great inspiration. And my biggest regret is that we didn't meet sooner, because we would have had even a stronger relationship that we have in a short amount of time. And that's the people too. Don't wait. Don't procrastinate, right? And stop talking about it and get it done, because you just never know where it could lead.
Yeah, well, we can accelerate. We can accelerate and catch up. Let's make some dough. Folks, thank you for listening to Dropping Bombs. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that bell notification so you know when we drop the next one. If you're on Apple, go ahead and leave a comment, rate the bitch so we can find more people. Share this out. Someone might need to hear this. And until next time, keep it real.